Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now, I've had the privilege of interviewing some of the top performers in the world, from Special Forces operators to world champion race car drivers to CEOs of multi-million-dollar companies. And over the years, one thing I've noticed about the people that are at the tippy top of their game is that they have an uncanny ability to be able to stay focused under pressure, to not get distracted by all the variables that might pull them off track, and to really dial in what it is that they need to do and then get it done. So today, I want to share with you 4 techniques or tools that these high achievers use to stay focused. Now, most of these are based around daily routines, but there's one that you can actually use right now. So let's jump into number 1. Number 1, they have a morning routine. Now, this doesn't mean that they are the type of people that go out for a jog every morning and touch their toes and do yoga and drink green juice, although some of them do that. But it does mean that they do have a routine that they follow when they wake up in the morning. It's something that helps to set the tone for the rest of the day. So for me personally, I like to wake up early. I like to write in my journal for a few minutes and just kind of get my thoughts together. I'll meditate for 5 or 10 minutes. I make sure that I have some sort of quiet time where I'm not reaching for my phone or checking email or getting pulled into all the craziness that is the rest of the world. Now, I have a family, so I have to balance that with spending time with my family and making sure that I give them the attention that they deserve. But I also have to make sure that I take time for myself to get ready for the day ahead, because otherwise, I'm going to get pulled in too many directions and I'm going to lose focus. And I think it was Naval Ravikant who said that he doesn't check his phone for the first hour that he's awake. He has a whole bunch of rules around this. He won't answer emails for the first hour that he's awake. He won't even look at his phone for the first hour that he's awake. And I think that's really smart. The idea is that your phone is filled with distractions. Your computer is filled with distractions. You turn on the TV and there's news alerts and there's this and there's that. And before you know it, you've been pulled in 1,000 different directions, and you haven't made any progress on the important things. There's this great book called Indistractable by Nir Eyal, and he talks about how we are all distracted all the time, and that there are really 2 types of distraction. There's internal distraction and external distraction. Internal distraction is when you're bored, or you're tired, or you don't have a sense of purpose, or you don't have clear goals. External distraction is when you have notifications, or you have people pulling on your time, or you have meetings that you don't really need to be in. And the key is to minimize both types of distraction. If you can do that, if you can remove the things that are pulling you off track, then you're much more likely to stay focused. When I interviewed Navy SEALs, they talked about the importance of having a pre-dive routine. This is a series of steps that they go through before they jump into the water. They talk about how they suit up and they check their gear, and they go through a mental checklist of everything that they need to do. And they do this to help them stay focused. They know that when they get into the water, things are going to be chaotic. Things are going to be loud. There's going to be a lot going on. And so they want to make sure that they're prepared and they're focused and they're ready for what's about to come. In the book Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins talks about his extreme physical training, and he talks about how he would start every workout with a push-up. He would do 1 push-up, and then he would go out for a run. And the reason he did this was because he knew that once he got out there, once he started running, he might want to quit. He might want to stop. He might want to go home. But he knew that if he could just get that 1 push-up in, if he could commit to that 1 rep, then he could get through the rest of the workout. It's kind of like getting the ball rolling. It's kind of like priming the pump. It's hard to get started, but once you get started, it's easier to keep going. The second technique that top performers use to stay focused is they have a daily highlight. Now, this is something that they do every single day, no matter what. This is the one and only thing that they absolutely must accomplish. When I was in the military, we had something called the duty roster, and every day there was 1 task that was absolutely critical, and we called that the deck task. And everything else was secondary to that. And so we made sure that we knocked that deck task out first thing in the morning. Then we could move on to the other stuff. And what we find is that if we don't do that, If we get pulled into all the other stuff and then we try to do the deck task later in the day, it usually doesn't get done, or it doesn't get done as well. We end up rushing it, and it's not nearly as good as if we would have done it first thing in the morning when we were fresh and focused. A friend of mine named Tim Harford, he's written a couple of books. He's a columnist for the Financial Times. He recently wrote an article about the importance of focusing on one thing at a time, and he talks about how we live in a world where we're constantly bombarded with distractions, where we're constantly pulled in a million different directions, and it's really easy to spread ourselves too thin. It's really easy to say yes to everything and to try to do everything. But what he found is that when he focused on one thing at a time, when he really honed in on one thing and gave it his full attention, that's when he was at his best. That's when he was able to produce his best work. And so we have to learn to say no to most things, to protect our time, to make sure that we're able to focus on the one thing that's most important to us each and every day. The third technique that high achievers use to stay focused is they have a word for the day or a mantra for the day. This is something that they think about throughout the day. It's a reminder of what's important. It's a way to keep them honest. So for me, my word for the day today is focus. I want to make sure that I'm focused. I want to make sure that I'm dialed in. I don't want to get distracted. And so that's why I'm sharing this with you, because I want to make sure that I'm focused on what's important. I remember being in the military, and we had this saying, mission first, always. And that meant that no matter what, no matter how tired we were, no matter how hungry we were, no matter what was going on, our mission always came first. And we took that very seriously. We knew that if we didn't do our mission, if we weren't successful, then bad things could happen. People could get hurt. People could die. And so we had to make sure that we put the mission first. And so I think it's really important to have a mantra that guides our behavior, that keeps us honest, that reminds us of what's important. The fourth technique that top performers use to stay focused is they don't multitask. They do one thing at a time. And I know that sounds simple, but it's actually really hard. We're trained from a young age to multitask. We're told that we're good at multitasking if we can juggle a lot of things at once. But the reality is that when we multitask, we don't do any of those things well. When we're driving, if we're on our phone or we're eating or we're doing anything else besides paying attention to the road, we're less safe. We're more likely to get into an accident. When we're working, if we're constantly checking our email or we're constantly on social media or we're constantly doing anything else besides focusing on the task at hand, we're less productive. We're more likely to make mistakes. And when we're in relationships, if we're on our phone, or we're on the computer, or we're doing anything else besides giving that person our full attention, then we're not building that relationship. We're not creating those meaningful connections. So instead, we have to train ourselves to focus on one thing at a time. We have to train ourselves to be present in the moment. We have to train ourselves to savor the experience, to enjoy the process, and to do one thing at a time. Those are 4 techniques that top performers use to stay focused. I hope they help you. I hope you're able to implement them in your own life. And if you liked this video, please subscribe. I appreciate it. Thank you.